Hello and welcome to Family Dynamics. Mom is here, but we're going to first do our intros. So hold on, Mom. Okay, ready? Hi, it's Katherine.
And Liz.
And Ed.
And John.
And we have our mom with us.
Hi, kids.
Oh, there we go.
Hi, Mom.
I mean, that was perfect. I think we did a perfect job. Okay, so Mom.
Not 14 times later.
Exactly. We did the perfect intro, I
Okay.
think. Okay, so we are going to pick up on your HERstory. I don't know if you recall where we left off.
No, I have no
I don't
idea.
either. I wasn't here last time, I don't think.
That's correct. It was just me and Mom and the boys. And you would come in your purple outfit and you had snacks and brought leaves with you.
jeez.
It was very entertaining, I thought.
I had a leaf in my pocket this morning with what I had on.
Oh, just one leaf?
Yeah, it just was left over from the last time I was collecting them.
Oh, okay. Because last time you did have a good 20 leaves.
Oh, at least.
At
yeah.
least. All right, so we left off at, I believe, we had moved to the San Fernando Valley, and you had Virginia, your sixth, and we had discussed a little bit about what that was like living with a bunch of little kids and in this new house, in this new neighborhood. You'd met Maureen across the street.
Thank you, Rosie.
Oh, was that she had left the house out the front
Yeah,
door?
she was walking up the street all by herself. She's about 2.5.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
And this lady comes to the door and she says, "Is this your little girl?" I thought, oh, you feel like, you're going to have me arrested immediately.
I mean, what is it? Child services? Call
Yeah.
child services on you?
CPS.
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, look, you were really doing amazing considering there was a lot of juggling of small people and things happening.
Yes. Always something happening.
Yeah, did
Always
we
something.
not have the front gate?
No, that was courtesy of Rosemary's wandering tendencies.
The escape of Rosemary then caused you to get a gate in front of it. So our front, little porch area, it's not even really a porch. What is it? Like a landing, or I don't know what you would call it, but it's basically
Entry.
a little recessed entry to the front door. So then you put a gate, which is the same gate that we've had
Wrought
since.
iron.
Yeah. So, and that opens, it's nice and tall.
I was vouching for wrought iron. Wrought iron. Quality, good people.
It lasts, people.
Yeah, I mean, gee.
we
Well,
painted it a
50
couple
years.
times. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It had to be shellacked a few times.
Yeah, it's now partially lead paint.
Oh,
and
no.
wrought iron.
Layers.
exactly, yes.
Many, many layers on there.
Okay, so now we're living in the San Fernando Valley. We have gated the house so children cannot wander.
Also, on both sides of the house weren't gated either.
Oh, really? The yard was just
Yeah.
accessible?
No,
We could
to
leave?
anybody.
Oh, to anybody. Well, not
You wanted
just
to come
us
in.
leaving. I see what you're saying.
You could go up the hill anytime. Goodbye.
I mean, I guess that was very typical back east, right? I mean, people really did not gate their properties. But in California, people
Yeah.
completely, there's gated communities.
Fenced off, yeah.
Fenced
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I am shocked. I mean, we didn't have a pool in our backyard, so that liability wasn't an issue. But just wandering children, that is
You
kind
would
of crazy.
think.
And dogs.
yeah, and dogs.
I
At
would
that
have
point, we
always
didn't have
thought
dogs,
this.
did we? But yeah.
No.
I would have thought the side yards were gated. That surprises me.
I
Okay.
do remember when you guys put in, it's kind of a wide entrance on the two sides of your house and a big swinging gate. I remember those going in.
Yeah, and going out.
But I wouldn't have thought that there was nothing there before. I thought maybe you were replacing something.
Nope.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
No
all
wonder Rosie wandered away.
She was just like, goodbye.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
She was just, let's see what's around here.
She was exploring
So you were pregnant with Virginia at the time.
when we moved.
The very first day we moved was in the summer. Mm-hmm. I think it must have been late June. We were in a heat wave. And I was pregnant. Okay, can you imagine that?
People have done it, yes.
Furniture and boxes
Crazy.
and boxes. And finally, I went over and looked really, really carefully at the thermometer. We had it on heat.
Oh, geez.
It was just so ridiculous. Well, it was so worn off, you couldn't really see it.
Oh, the thermometer was hard
Unless
to
you
read.
got really, right up to it.
I vaguely remember moving into the house and it being extremely hot that day.
Oh, it was. It was ridiculous.
And having been born and raised a Santa Monica kid, I was like, what the hell did we do?
Literally, what?
I
in
was
the
like,
hell?
Yeah. I mean,
what
you're
is this
getting baked.
decision?
Your dad really hated fog.
Oh, like beached in.
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
Like
I
so
loved
great.
it.
I love it.
Yeah, I'd move in a minute.
You have the heat on and you're trying to move in. Are you trying to do it like your father would, where we're all in one
I couldn't
day?
move that fast
Yeah.
at that point. And your dad was not really like my dad.
Not at all.
It could wait for several years before he got around to it. Whereas my dad would have it fixed in 5 minutes, some way that was completely unacceptable. But
Now, were we all moved upstairs? Because that's where the primary bedrooms were.
yeah,
And it was only 3 bedrooms at the time because you had not
That's right.
basically made that little alcove and office. So
Yeah.
were all of us girls at that point, 3 of us girls in one bedroom and the 2 boys in the other one?
yeah. And then the little extra one, which then got walled off and became a room, was the where
Nursery.
we kept the bassinet.
Oh, okay. Because at one point, pretty soon after that, Ginny was in the room with us. The 4 of us were in the same room.
With a crib.
So it was a bunk bed, my little bed in the corner, and a crib.
Yeah. And people were jumping off the top bunk. Oh my God. There was stuff going on there. I found out later, when you were a bit older, that you used to go out on that apron in front of the window.
Oh, gosh, we'll get to that. Yeah. No. I mean, that we all survived our childhood.
I mean, and the
It's a
torturing of
miracle.
babysitters, for sure.
There was
I actually just thought of a story. Our dear Kathleen, who's a family friend, I was so manipulative. She was babysitting, and I somehow got a tack in my knee, which really was shocking to look at. But you're like, a tack is like, what is that? A millimeter, centimeter?
Still, I wouldn't want a tack in my knee.
Maybe a quarter of an inch.
So I'm like, like wailing away and like just freaking out. And Kathleen said, all right, if you let me pull it out, I'll give you a special treat, so on and so forth. And I'm like, all right. And she pulls it out, and it did not hurt at all. But I realized I can't not.
This is your
amp
moment.
this
Yeah.
up. So I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to be able to use my knee ever again. Get antibiotics and peroxide on there, Band-Aid. Oh, I'm limping. And of course, I think she might have been living with us at the time. And I manipulated like a drumstick out of her or something.
Oh, like an ice
There
cream
were
cone?
so many crazy stories, but because I just saw her over Easter, thought that I'm like, I feel bad about that still.
No, don't feel bad.
You were the drama queen.
Oh yeah, well,
I always knew when you were really hurt, like the time you swung your head around in the tub and whacked into the faucet. You never made any noise when it was a real injury. Oh, that was the tip-off. Call the ambulance.
otherwise,
You lose your
Oh, yeah.
acting prowess when there's real pain.
yes.
Got
Oh,
it.
that's interesting.
That's interesting. Okay, so you're pregnant with Virginia. You've moved into a house with the heat on in the middle of a heat wave in the San Fernando Valley.
Well,
Yeah.
we did get through, I remember for sure, we talked about you having Virginia and being in the hospital. And
Oh, but let's not miss the fabulous going to the drive-in movie.
I think we
When?
did do that.
Yep.
The first or second day, I can't remember. It could have been the first, but I don't know how I could have done that. But anyway, so your dad says, we all need a break. Let's go to the movies. By which he meant the drive-in movie.
So not air conditioned
No,
still.
not air conditioned.
Ay, ay, ay.
And sitting on top of each other. And we get there, and there's all this wriggling around between the seats and all this kind of stuff. And so Dad says, I am going to the snack shack, and I'm going to get us you all treats. And when I get back, everything better be settled down. What kind of miracle did he expect? I mean, it was so crazy. We had 5 kids in this car. It might have been a
In a
station
station
Yeah,
wagon,
'cause-
for sure. We
yeah.
didn't have vans yet.
And Rosemary was climbing from the front seat to the back seat to the other side to the where she was all over the place all the time. Dad was gone, and William started crying,
Yeah.
and he said, "And she's going to have another one."
She's going to have
sweet William.
3 more,
Yeah.
actually.
Surprise!
Oh, my goodness. Now, at this point, where were all of us going to school?
That's interesting because we moved here the day that you could register for school at St. Mel's.
The local
we did.
Catholic grade school.
And because it was during the busing situation, anybody and everybody wanted to get into the Catholic schools because they were exempt.
Oh.
So that was really the beginning of people who weren't Catholic going to Catholic school.
So this was 73?
Yeah.
73.
And so they let us know that none of you got in.
Which is crazy because you would have thought the Catholic school of that era, it would have been required that you were Catholic.
Yeah.
Now
well,
things have changed. There wasn't as many private school options, but the idea back then, you went there if you were Catholic.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you had to go to mass. I mean, religion was taught every day. I mean, it was very much part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
So to not be Catholic would have been kind of, what am I doing here?
By the time I was teaching, it was, just de rigueur. I mean, that's what always happened. You know, anybody that wanted a cheap private education for their kids.
Why do we say affordable?
Cheap. They were paying me the most ridiculous salary.
Oh, that's true. Okay. All right.
And so anyway, somebody went to kindergarten. Who would be kindergarten
it would be
age?
me, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You went up the street, and the boys went to Our Lady of Grace because Dad was teaching right next door at Crespi.
Right.
So-
had Dad been teaching at Crespi for very long at that point, or?
I think this was his third or fourth year.
Oh, okay. So he was coming over
yeah.
from the west side to teach at Crespi?
Yeah.
Because Crespi's kind of like in the middle of the San Fernando Valley, I would say.
Yeah. It was quite a hike.
Was
Yeah.
that one of the catalysts for moving to San Fernando Valley?
Oh.
Teaching at Crespi? I mean,
No, he didn't mind driving. I don't understand that. But anyway, he got used to no fog.
Oh.
And every way where he was, there was air conditioning.
The valley's great. It's nice and cool. There's no fog anywhere. You can practically never even feel the heat.
Not really what was true, but
I never heard this whole fog aversion.
yeah. He felt closed in. He wanted, the fresh air and the sunshine.
Interesting.
I mean,
wanna
he wasn't
be
exactly
in
a
it.
chipper guy.
I mean,
so
maybe
I'm a
that's why
little-
he moved from the East Coast out here to begin with. You know?
No, that was about acting.
Oh, just acting. All right.
Maybe he's got a light version of the winter shut-in, mood change.
Oh, the vitamin D thing?
Seasonal effectiveness disorder or
That's
something?
the one.
Oh.
He had like a light one. He could just be put off by fog. That's all
Just
it
fog.
takes.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He was quite a character.
Well, in our previous episode, we did get through Virginia being born, and then we should pick up with somewhere after that. I was interested to hear about how the store came about, because that was after Ginny was born, right?
Yes.
So Dad had a religious books and gift store, but primarily he wanted to do a religious bookstore. But
Yeah.
that wasn't the original. I mean, he got some money from somewhere, and then he was trying to decide what to do with it.
Well, by that time, he'd stopped teaching at
Oh.
Crespi, which I'm glad we were so handy for it. But anyway, he took all of his retirement
Oh.
and was going to invest it in some kind of business that he could employ his children, and it would be a source of income.
Oh.
And
which
since
is
they
what it
weren't good
was.
enough actors
Oh.
anymore, got to change plans.
Yeah. And I remember somebody must have been babysitting. Jan lived with us when
Right.
Ginny was first born. And I would ride my bike up to the store as it was being gotten ready and help him with it.
So the
And-
store was less than a
that's
mile away
right.
from our house, or
Right.
maybe max
right
2
up-
miles. I remember where it was, but I'm just trying to give a sense of how close it was. I just can't imagine you riding your bike there. That's the first I've ever heard of that. That's very cute. Just like, get on my bike and ride to the store.
Back up a little bit, because first of all, he had retirement. I mean, he was only teaching a few years. I mean, that's a little odd that he had a retirement fund worth anything.
Yeah.
And then I remember there was Mr. Baker's involvement, because there were 3 options that he considered before he settled on the religious bookstore because of a conversation with Mr. Baker.
Yeah, that's true.
So
What were the options?
Cleaner
Oh, so like a dry cleaner.
or
I thought it was like a pub or a
couldn't have been-
bar.
it couldn't have been a bar because it was going to have your kids working there, so that couldn't have been. So I don't know what the
That's
third
what
one-
I remember, though.
What year was this?
73, possibly 70.
child labor laws were a little
No,
loose.
I'm just wondering. Like, that's right around when the Rib Ranch got founded.
Really?
So he might have been looking at that other spot of like, oh, I could open a restaurant next to this bookstore / whatever.
What you've always told, or what I've always heard you say, was the options were a dry cleaner and a pub. Those were what he was considering. And he had a talk with Mr. Baker. Bruce Baker was his
Yeah,
name,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Bruce Baker said, we do not have in the Valley what we really need. Because he was already very kind of a religious.
Yes, he was
Man.
someone that we knew from St. Mel's. They had a big family, so
he
we
also
were.
taught at Crespi.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
That
okay.
was the connection.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. And
But
he,
they were a St. Mel's family, and we were a St. Mel's family. But you're saying that they actually knew each other from teaching. Interesting. Okay.
and they were also a big Catholic family. I
Yeah.
think.
I think they had 8 kids.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Slightly
later.
older than us.
Sure. And then later he became a deacon. So he was
Yes,
quite
and
religious.
then his wife died and he became a priest.
Okay.
He
So
was real into it.
Yeah.
Dad decided not a dry cleaner, not a pub. I'm going to open a religious bookstore and gift shop.
Yeah. He really went out of his way to not make it sound like it was a Catholic bookstore. It was a Christian bookstore.
Who did? Dad did?
Yeah.
But it was so specifically Catholic, I thought, wasn't it? No?
Well, there was lots of stuff that was Catholic, but there was lots of writers that were not Catholic, and
So it was supposed to be
music that wasn't Catholic, and
It was supposed to be Christian inclusive, like all the.
It's so odd because it's not that we were not a religious family, but if you watch in our house, it wasn't like every wall had a cross on it. And Dad didn't come off particularly overly religious.
his family was, just sort of
The Sunday going Catholics.
Sunday, lived in a Catholic community, just,
So odd.
well, he changed.
Well,
over
also
time.
because it was like the 70s, I feel like there's like a grooviness about it. Like, I'm going to have a religious store, everybody, spirituality.
Wait, what were the? Because you used to have priests come to the house and say mass. That felt very 70s
that was
groovy.
one of the worst times of my life. One
What?
of those.
I don't know. And also, you did like what was that couples thing, like marriage encounter? That was a very 70s groovy Catholic vibe thing. You guys were, I don't know. I mean, not hippie, but like definitely there was some 70s stuff that was baked in, but also religious, which is an interesting.
Well, there also are hippie things, which has nothing to do with why you do hippie things.
I make yogurt, which Dad made yogurt. Dad actually had a real hippie kind
Well,
of.
he was really into this. Can't remember her name whenever I try. And then all of a sudden at 4 o'clock in the morning, it comes to me.
Oh, perfect.
But there was Adele Davis. Ha ha!
Adele Davis, okay.
And she was probably the first person to popularize healthy eating and, really taking care of your physicality and knowing what you were doing with food. I mean, because people just, 3 meals a day, meat, potatoes, and gravy every night. I mean, it was just like...
Although even back then, I would say much healthier food than what's happening now. 'Cause
Oh,
there
yeah.
wasn't
Less
as many-
processed.
Yeah. There's not as
Yeah,
many
yeah.
additives. There, So even if you
I
were
eat
eating
potatoes every day, hamburger and fries, right?
yeah, that's.
But Dad was really good about that. And he had an allergy which would cause his eye to swell.
Oh,
It was very weird and very strange looking. And I found out after we got married.
Yeah,
that
I was
he
like,
went
did you
out
know
of
that
his-
before? That
he
might have been a
went
deal
out of his
breaker.
way to let me never see him that way.
I don't remember this at all. What was he allergic to that caused that?
I
Because he
don't
did
know.
have a lot of like sinus congestion.
Yes, he did.
Because he always had Sudafed around, and
Yeah.
but
But so
his
that's
eye
how
would swell up.
Yeah, that's why he got into
I don't ever
Adele
remember
Davis.
seeing that. His eye swell.
It,
No,
it got
never.
it got better in the valley, so maybe the fog did it.
Oh.
It was a fog allergy.
I
my
have
goodness.
no idea.
Ooh, Frank, you look like you're coming down with the fog
And
eye.
I never had any allergies till we moved to the valley. Now
Yeah.
I am sneezeola.
The pollen and
Yeah.
the chaparral in this area can be
Oh.
problematic.
Well, they say it's allergy haven is Woodland Hills.
Oh, wait, Haven as in good or bad?
No. I mean, it's where they blossom.
I think
and
hub
bloom.
should be. Woodland Hills is a hub of allergies.
Yes.
I actually was on a walk with our other sister, Rosemary.
I know I missed Sister Walk.
And I literally saw a tree like go poof, and it
Yeah.
was just a cloud of pollen. I'm like, oh my God, where do we run? We're like, put your T-shirt up. I mean, it was just like trying to get us. So you had moved to San Fernando, had Virginia, Gigi, and now Dad's no longer teaching. He's taken his retirement fund and been talked into opening a Christian bookstore and gift shop
Yeah.
about a mile from our house. And you're riding your bike there to help set it up.
And
Amazing.
I worked for him when he first opened because, in the middle of the day he'd get interviews and
Oh,
stuff
sure.
like that.
Oh,
So
auditions, isn't that? Because
yeah.
he's still acting.
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. And so he wanted to have the freedom to be able to go as soon as he's called. you know.
Okay.
Of course.
So I started working for him, and I thought, this is not working. What am I supposed to do with Jenny? So we had a playpen up there.
Oh,
It
a playpen
was
at the
just
store?
Impossible.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was so bad. And he just needed to go someplace, so he'd give me a call, whatever. And I finally said, this is not working. I can't do this.
And I guarantee you he wasn't paying you.
Oh, of course not.
Oh, what
and
the hell?
so that's when he got married, Alice Ambrose. your godmother, was, I think, the first person who came to work for us.
The very first employee. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was, I always thought Frank was so lucky because she was just somebody he could get along with so well. And Kathleen was another one.
But she didn't work at that store. She worked at the second location.
That's true. That's true.
I'm
That's
like
true.
that. We were young when the store
we moved, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was fun as a kid. You quite often, if we got in trouble, it'd be like, go walk to your dad's store. I was like,
Oh my God, I don't remember that. Really?
absolutely.
We'd get banished to the store.
Yep.
Leave.
Most likely it was Rosemary and I, because we had a lot of energy. So it was like, get out of the house,
you
go
two
walk.
were
to the-
like puppies.
Yes.
It's just scrambling around and barking and carrying on.
we're barely 18 months apart. So
Yeah.
I technically was still a baby when she came. So
Oh, yeah.
It was like,
Are,
all
Liz,
right.
are you saying that you're from the same litter, practically?
Almost.
She knew how to play that, though. She'd be with the big kids when she felt like it.
Who, Liz, you mean?
Yes, and she'd go with the little kids when they were getting the good deal.
As soon as the little kids came along, the older kids, I have a little or no interaction with the older kids. That is the truth. That
Yeah.
you wanted nothing to do with me when we were younger. So no, I just dominated the youngers.
Yeah.
Primarily my two younger sisters,
Yeah.
really. That's what it was. And so you would tell us as a punishment, you got to walk to Dad's store. And I think you would call on the phone like, I'm sending Rosie and Liz to you. So he at least would know to expect us. But I mean, we would get so sidetracked.
Well, there were multiple cute little stores in that area.
Not
there
even
was
stores.
Lulu's flower shop, and
For
there was
sure, I dumpster
Gary's,
dived.
There
There
were
were
across
a
the street.
lot of vacant lots.
Yes.
Oh.
All the way up. There were
Yes.
no houses.
Oh.
Yeah.
There were trees.
Vacant meaning not a house built on it. Probably some flowers that maybe you
Needed
would
to be
wander by and
picked.
pick, Liz.
You can actually, I can think of, if you go past Mom's house, I think 2 houses, those were 2 empty lots.
Definitely,
Then our
yeah.
friend Brian Fitzgerald growing up, he had like 2 houses next to him. There was like 2 or 3 houses there that were not there next to the school.
Like the 3 at the end of the block that got
Right,
built
yeah.
in my lifetime. Yeah.
So we would lollygag is the word you like to use, but there's a pomegranate tree. There's honeysuckles we should try. There's some old lady that we got to talk to. I mean, we probably took an hour plus.
Which
walk
was
this mile.
the plan,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, Mom was
And-
like, just go away is what I really want.
And if we had $1, I mean, the world was ours because we would stop at Gary's, which was a grocery store on the corner of Topanga and Dumetz. So if you were heading up into the canyon to go to the beach or you were coming back from the beach, that was sort of your first real stop. Although there was one weird grocery store
In the middle.
in the middle that if you stopped on the way home from the beach, it was so exciting because like, can we get ice cream, please? But Gary's Market was there, owned by a family Thompson family, I think, for a very long time. They had Dad's idea and did it right because it was like the 2 boys worked at like the deli and like the butcher, and the dad ran it, and the mom and the daughter ran like the bakery department. So you'd go in there, and if you were like semi-regular, they'd start to recognize you. And you just stare, and your hot breath is fogging up the bakery window for a while. They're like, "Here's a cookie, get the hell out!" Like one of those cookies by the pound
Yeah,
with
keep your
sprinkles.
25 cents.
Yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
"Here's one, leave."
I mean, you just you sneak in to Gary's real quick. I'm like, I know where the water fountain is. It's right next to the
Oh, it was
the
very
entrance.
cold water,
Super
too.
cold
Oh.
water. I'm very hot.
Yes.
I'm gonna stare at the bakery for a little while. Okay, gotta go. I can't afford anything. I'm gonna leave.
And you look at those.
That was
No,
my experience. With Gary.
also look at the big board of like want ads or advertisements. I mean, they must have seen us coming and were like, "Oh, God."
Here they go.
But I will say, I never shoplifted from there. I was too terrified. There was like an old guy that worked there. He gave such a mean, gruff vibe. He was not Gary, so I forgot his name. But then when we became teenagers, jumping forward, most of us had jobs there in one way or the other. So
Rosemary worked there and you worked there. I never worked there, but
right. But so
I
the
wish
store,
I had.
the store was sort of diagonally. Well, how would you say?
Diagonally.
Okay, the store was sort of like diagonally.
Diagon Alley.
Diagon Alley, Harry Potter across the street. So it's sort of cornered. And we were right in between a Italian sort of pizza
Sub-place.
sub place.
Oh,
It's
is
the
that
smell.
why we
He
love
had
that
the
place so much?
best.
I had no idea that's
They
what
had
our
the
store was.
best
Jocks.
subs. Oh, Jocks subs.
Ooh. Dee Dee, my sister-in-law, will still bring up his hot roast beef because it was
Really?
like some sort of like, shaved beef and then And he had one of the things he had was like a little individual pizza.
One friend in like 7th grade, we both ended up with $5 in our pockets a couple times, and he lived around the corner from Jock's. I know I split a pizza with Tyler at least 3 times. I can taste that pizza right now. It's so
Oh,
fucking
wow.
good. I'm like 35 years ago. I'm like, oh yeah, I know
But-
exactly what that tasted like. Oh yeah.
You have to be very careful. The first bite was molten
It
lava.
was like putting lasers right under your tongue. I don't know if the rest of this tastes good, but it's very hot.
Yeah.
What was on the other side? So it was Jacques on one side, and then
And the flower store.
No.
no, the flower store was on the other corner.
No.
Lulu's flower
I think
shop.
it was for a very long time. It was sort of a hair salon. They were young entrepreneur type of owned stores. I mean, they
Yes.
were independently owned, no chains.
just a little shop
Yeah.
on the corner kind of vibe.
And you only had one small parking lot in the back that could take about 6 cars, and then street parking up front. So parking was a little limited.
Yeah.
And the space of the store was small. I mean, you entered up a few steps to get into it, and I think he had a back door out the back. For Dad, who I will honestly, I don't remember him having any decor sense whatsoever. Right?
He could decorate a set. He could design a set.
No.
But the inside of the
but
store,
no, he
plainest
could not.
walls
Then when you get a look at the set, you'd say, was that a plan?
I'm like, no. But it actually was kind of cute, I remember. I mean, it came together.
Yeah.
And he bought really good. Now it's hard to get this. I only noticed, well, we're not going to jump this far forward, but when you have to buy bookshelves and display units for jewelry, and because he had rosaries and cross necklaces and saint medallions, and now you buy this type of display units, and most of them are glass and metal or plastic and kind of crappy. Back then it was like solid wood with real glass, real substantial. And what I don't remember is when you'd walk in, was his checkout counter at the back or
No, it was in the front.
Yeah, okay, it was in the front. That's what I thought. And there was a little office room in the back, right?
With a little recliner
Of course, you had to take a mid-afternoon nap.
It was hilarious.
And of
deal
course,
with it.
that recliner in that one is the recliner that moved to the new location, which then was jammed into a corner and in disrepair my
Well,
entire
that's
life.
wait, that's jumping. That's
Too far forward.
Too
but
far,
yeah.
but
because
we
that
will
is
get
a
to it for sure.
wackadoodle whole scenario. But so at this point, I think all of us were too young to work at the store. I mean, we'd ride
yeah.
our bikes there and keep him company or bring him lunch, and he enjoyed that. But I don't remember working at the store at all.
I
No,
don't
not
think
at that
you did
one.
at the
Yeah.
second store. Yeah.
Yeah, no, even the first one was you'd go and hang out. You know, there I definitely remember there being times because there was a donut shop across the street.
I was going to say, we got to give a shout out. If it was
Blinky's
there.
Donuts.
Blinky's Donuts still there.
Now, it was originally owned or started, or of our era, that's a better way to put it, was owned by 2 surfers who, up early anyways, make the donuts. When they ran out, shut it down and left to go over to Panga Canyon to surf. I mean, that's who did it.
Yeah.
And now I think it's had like 3 or 4 owners. Like it just changed recently again.
Yeah, my husband is a huge fan, and he's very
But-
into the Blinkies world.
Didn't it just change owners and he's sad?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It did.
I do. I don't think I'd ever tried to figure out why they called it Blinkies, but now that you say, "Oh, it's these early rise surfers," yeah, absolutely. I'm going to Blinkies, going, "It's 6:30.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yep.
Have a donut and go to my road."
That would be the customers. I mean, they're up at like 3 or something crazy.
For sure.
Right.
And then there was an Italian deli right in that same shopping center across from Dad's that I thought it was, and I think it's been confirmed it was a mafia front.
No, it has not been confirmed.
No,
Are
of our era in the 70s, Krika's, because I think one of my friends' dads ran a bookie out of there. I don't know.
on.
But
Okay.
it was so famous for like if you'd saved enough money and you were going to be a trader to Jocks and you got a Krika sub. I still remember like you get the Krika sub and you're like, oh, it looks so good. And you open up and there's a tomato on each side. And all he had done is taken one Roma tomato, put in the center, and cut it. And you're like, where is the rest of the tomatoes? But as a kid, because we rode our bikes everywhere, and that was like part of our big world, that whole like you
That
know,
little area.
corner. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Dad was there for how many years?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Usually I gauged it by what kid was the youngest. It was probably Eddie.
For sure. I think it was, he was there like maybe 5 years because I think I was in maybe 3rd grade. I was still very young. And he decided he was going to move the store to a more central location with better parking.
Yeah.
And also a lot more space.
Space.
It was a much bigger store.
He had probably 2 times the
I mean, was it
space.
doing that well? Yeah, it must have
stayed
been.
open all those years.
It was 20
And-
plus years.
And
Yeah.
as he said, it produced cash. So, and he could juggle the bills. Like, this guy doesn't charge you anything, so you make him wait the longest.
Oh, right. Whether it's
And
like,
this and
the
that, the
bills
other
due.
thing.
The
And
invoice is 30 days versus
And
90
he even
days.
used to do that with your tuition at school. And when John went to the school I was teaching in for kindergarten, which is jumping ahead a bit, I said, "You're never to pay them late."
Oh,
I mean, it was like I really couldn't be the teacher whose
Oh,
kid
jeez.
was always late with his tuition. I was like, oh,
that would have been awkward. That would have been
Yeah.
awkward. Okay, so he's got the store. We're there for a couple years.
One of the things that he decided to do that was when his dad died.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Did he inherit some money, or why you're saying it's a catalyst?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because his
I
mom
think
was still alive,
well,
so.
but your dad dies. Yours was very early, but when a grown man's dad dies, it's sort of like, it's
Shocking.
It's unsettling, and so he came down in a different place.
That's interesting. Let's get a little bit of a timeline on that. So at this point, your parents are alive. Are they still living in Van Nuys? Mm-hmm. Okay. So Ginny's born. They're in Van Nuys. Dad's parents had stayed on the East Coast. At this point, his dad died when? What year was that?
Ginny was just learning to crawl.
Oh, so this is right in this spot.
74, 75.
And so I went back for the funeral, and she had a lovely nap.
You took her with you?
Yeah, well,
I guess.
I mean, she was still a little baby, more or less. I mean, 6, 8 months old, I don't know. And she just learned how to crawl, and she spent the whole night crawling up and down the aisle while everyone was asleep but me.
On the plane, you mean?
I was so exhausted.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It was crazy. It was crazy. Yep.
Okay,
How
so
old was he when he
Yeah.
passed away?
He was
this was his
he may have
dad.
been in his 80s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right, because it's like Grammy's 1908, and he was just before like 1899 or something like that.
Wow.
So that would be like right at 80.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they always lived back east in our child, growing up. And so I only have one real clear memory of him. And it was they came for a visit. They usually didn't stay at the house with us.
No.
Yeah.
Brilliant of them.
Yeah.
They
So-
didn't. Did they stay in a hotel?
There was a hotel in Santa Monica that had been there probably 100 years already by then. A lot of residents who lived
Oh,
there
okay.
all the time, but they had some units that, you could
That
rent.
wasn't your parents?
No.
Really? They would stay that far away from us?
No, we were probably
We were
living in
in
Santa
Santa
Monica.
Monica.
Oh, okay. I meant once we were in the valley. Okay.
Once we're in the valley.
I think they did visit at least once in this valley,
Oh, yeah, they did.
which must have been really soon. No.
No.
I don't think.
Well, yes.
Grammy did. But
Grammy did.
No, I
Granddad
have the
never
most
did.
clear memory of him. There was a carnival that was at Victory and Topanga. The movie theater then came in, and it was an empty lot forever, and now it's a mall. But it was a functioning carnival with a Ferris wheel and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I remember.
I could not have been more than 4 or 5 years old.
Well, we wouldn't have gone to that carnival if we weren't already living here. So he
Yeah.
must have visited at least once.
Maybe. But I
Maybe when
passed away.
his grandchild was born.
Oh,
Well, possibly.
Yeah, that
so
makes sense.
we
And
had
then-
been
the first grandchild comes along, and they wedged us in on a tour that they were going on, and they sort of dropped out of the tour while they were in L.A.
So you're
It
saying
was crazy.
we call Dad's parents Grammy and I want to say Poppop.
Yeah.
So they were on a tour, and in Los
Which
Angeles.
was planned, so it would work out with my having the baby, although the baby was almost 3 weeks late. So then that made it very much more complicated. And I thought, this really shouldn't be the main focus.
Where were they touring? The United
West.
States?
I have
Oh,
no
the West.
idea.
Okay.
just the West.
Well, I was going to finish the story. So there's also a miniature golf course, remember? So I
my
think
gosh, yes.
maybe there was an attempt like, let's get all the older kids out of the house and distract them. And I clearly remember being on the Ferris wheel looking down, and I was so pissed because there's Poppop standing with Rosemary, because that's who could get me really jealous. and he's buying her like popcorn,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
like, we're trapped on this Ferris wheel. We're gonna miss freaking popcorn. I'm like, get me off this. And I'm like watching it, like glaring laser beams of envy down at her, like,
Yeah, you can't enjoy this Ferris wheel when you know popcorn is happening.
No, so I will never forget. And he was like also giving her like special attention just because there's so much of us. You very rarely got any one-on-one, and they were never in town. So I was like, this is the worst. I mean, I was like, get me off this thing. I mean, so it is one of my clearest memories of childhood.
Completely unaware of the whole
For
thing.
sure.
Yeah,
I think
you
it
were
was,
dealing with a baby.
Yeah, I think it was get us out of the house to, to give some peace and quiet.
For a moment, for a mere moment.
I loved it when your kids got a little older, little jump ahead. Grammy used to come out by herself when she was a widow, and she'd take you all to Disneyland every time she came out. And I got a
With
whole
Dad.
day.
I do not
whole
recall
day.
that at all.
Yes, Katherine, because what you're not remembering
Yeah.
is, they at the time, Disneyland had the ticket books.
Sure.
So you had the e-tickets were the best rides.
Yep.
All the way down to, I don't know, I don't know what the worst ones were. I can't remember.
D?
Yeah, they were
D,
big
A, so
displays
it's A
or
through
something.
E. A through E then.
E was like, you only got one or two in an entire book. So it was
Yeah,
like
you got a
you
lot
had
of
to
A's.
bargain, barter, the whole thing. And it would be summer because she usually come out around that time. And we would go, we'd pack a lunch, and you're thinking mom's there. Mom was not there.
No.
It was Grammy and Dad.
Wow.
And that's who would take us. And they would inevitably, I also remember one of the one areas that Grammy really liked to be in, which she must have just turned down her hearing aid, was sort of like the OK Corral area because there was a lot of shade in there and benches. And so there's always a time where she was like, okay, I'm going to sit here for a while. You guys go away. So, that the whole old range,
Yeah.
like the shooting range, which I'm like, yeah, she must have
So
turned on her
you
hearing
are
aid.
talking about like Frontierland or
Yep.
whatever it
Yes,
is?
yes. So we would leave her there for a while.
Oh my gosh, I don't remember her being there at all.
Almost for
Wow.
sure, like 4 of our times to Disneyland was with her because
At
she was
least.
treating us.
Yeah.
And Dad would go with her, and she, like I said, she would just sit. She had her polyester skirt and probably like thick nylons. She wore like like ladies' hosiery, but they were like kind of thicker, and they looked like orthopedic shoes. But they I mean, the thing is, women ever do anything with menopause or hormones, like you hit menopause in your 50s and you
We're an old lady. All of a
old
sudden.
lady.
Just,
and it's
yeah.
like, because I can only think of her as one way with her tight curly perm and these like outfits. I mean, she came with the smallest pieces of luggage ever. It was like a carry-on.
That's
to stay
right.
with us all summer.
I
it was
don't know
all
many
month.
people today that don't
month?
have a purse that
Probably.
size.
no, for sure.
Legit.
I mean, but everything was like non-wrinkle, like wash and wear. Like it was so non-problematic.
Maybe the first person I've ever seen that used all the little sleeves and pockets in their one
Yes.
suitcase. It's like, you're using those? This is amazing. That goes in there and that goes in there. This is great.
Yeah, when she'd come for a
That's
visit,
where your
we'd
deck
follow
of cards
her.
go? I love it.
We'd follow her to
Oh, yeah,
watch her
that's right.
unpack.
She used to play solitaire all day.
I do remember she also used to bring like her little packet of coffee
Saccharin.
sweetener, saccharin, specifically saccharin. She would have black coffee with one little pellet of saccharin.
She's
in
very
it.
disciplined.
Well, she was also a teeny tiny little lady.
She weighed around 90 pounds.
Well,
But
she was
we're-
under 5 foot for sure.
We're going to rat her out on
4'10".
something.
What?
Well, she used to be 5'3", and then
No, never.
No, she never was.
I'm making a joke.
Oh,
she always
sorry,
had
but
like a
I
hunch.
was 5'3". Not
She was
anymore.
teeny. And when she'd get off the, because back then in the airport, you could go all the way up to the gate
Sure.
to greet. So all of us, and that was another time that Dad was just like, get as many kids out of the house, let
Bring
Mom
'em
have.
with.
So we're all beleaguered looking from the long drive from the airport and just waiting. She must have been like, oh God, it starts the minute I get off the plane. I mean, the minute. Hi, what's up? Hi.
Did she like us? I don't even know. It's hard to tell
But she was-
if she enjoyed having all these grandkids.
But she was really short, so like later on when I would be able to go to the airport, you'd be like, no, there's a dip in the crowd coming out. That's where she is.
The only,
the most exciting thing was to be taller than Grammy,
Yes.
Yes.
which
which
happened
everybody
pretty
got
early.
to do
Yeah.
pretty soon.
because we all visited back east. The only grandchild / cousin sibling I ever saw her get truly jazzed about was our cousin Patrick.
Oh, she was.
That was the one. That was the golden child.
She let him bounce balls in the house.
No, he could do no wrong. She adored him.
What?
Well, so our era was more like she'd come, and it was almost like she was going to prison for a month. Like she's going to bear it and grin it, because you two were real different.
Bear it and grin it? You mean grin and bear it?
I don't even know if there's a grin involved with Grammy.
Zero.
just
Grimace.
burying
Grimace
it.
and Bear It.
Grimace and Bear It, yeah.
Oh,
That's
Lord.
closer to.
So, and because she'd come in summer, so there's no break from us going to school. None of us went to camp, so everybody was home, total chaos. And Mom, you were not what she probably would have picked as a daughter-in-law. It was too insane. It was just chaotic.
Oh,
Well,
I
I
mean,
think Dad was surprisingly
she
more.
had she had this first baby, and she's leaving the hospital, and the nurse said, which was common in those days, "See you next year." She said, "No, you won't.
Oh.
I won't be back for 4 years." And 4 years later, she had another baby, and 4 years later, she had another baby,
Yeah.
and that was that.
So the in between, that would have been Dad's brother William, who passed away very early.
Yeah,
I remember
his
that
first
was
year.
Yeah, that was one of the only times I ever saw Dad cry talking about losing his brother
Oh.
William. I know, sweet. But yeah, she married kind of later than of the era, didn't she?
Yeah, she was well, girls got married when I got married, no later than 20.
Yeah, that was.
And guys got married by about 22. That was the average
Yeah,
age.
you and Dad was older than you by almost 10 years.
Almost.
And then you were of the era, an appropriate age. He was much older than was normal at that time. But Grammy was older by the standard
She
of her
was
age.
close to 30, I think.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I was going to say, I think I've heard a little bit of the backstory on that they waited to get married and then waited to have kids till it was a little bit later than you would normally in that era because it was the Depression.
Yeah.
It was the 20s. So they waited until the 30s to have Dad, and in her 30s nearly.
I love when John does that look like.
I don't know about
I don't know about
What,
that.
John? You got some facts?
I don't have the facts because I'm a bad person and I don't remember when the Great Depression was. The
And
stock
then the
market crashed in like
30s
29 or something, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
So maybe I'm thinking Dust Bowl.
Well, and he had
When's that, John?
In Pennsylvania? What the hell?
I do recall him saying that he came back from the honeymoon to find out that his job had been cut in half.
Who, Poppop, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh. He was a bank examiner at this point.
For all of Frank's growing up, he was a bank examiner, which would mean very often that he was gone all week.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, maybe I was discussing it with my daughter, Sarah, about Grammy's hearing loss and when did she lose her hearing? Because she was profoundly hearing impaired and wore a hearing aid that made whistling noises and whatever. And she would often turn it off or
Adjust it.
It was her sort of way of not engaging.
Regulating.
She was like, I don't need all this activity. Particularly when she was with us in our chaotic household, she would just be like,
You'd hear that whistle and you're like, she just turned it all the way down.
Yeah, but my understanding was that she was hard of hearing from very early. It wasn't something that came with old age.
No,
it was some kind of illness maybe when she was
I
young.
don't know what caused it, but it was from when she was much younger.
And I think
Maybe when Judy was young.
that's her daughter. And I was just going to say,
Our Aunt Judy, yeah.
we had Aunt Judy on the podcast.
Oh, God love him. That's right. We did a Zoom.
We did a Zoom. It was great. And she was the one who really clarified, oh, no, Grammy was deaf basically her whole life. And that was how Judy grew up. And it was very sort of lonely.
And with their dad out all week as well.
Yeah, and the dad out.
And her brother out shooting BB guns in the forest. I mean,
he
it had
was-
nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
They didn't even have a relationship till they were adults.
They were too much of an age gap.
Yeah, big
Yeah,
age
yeah,
gap. He
yeah.
was off doing other things.
Yeah,
and then,
except she's almost the same age as I am.
yeah.
So by the time we got married, the age gap didn't make that much difference. But
But then
as a
he moved
little
to California.
kid-
But he moved to California,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Getting back to Grammy a little bit, she come for the visits, and it was summer and it was chaotic. And Dad absolutely scooted the hell out every day to get out of this dynamic of oh, my mother and my wife, bye. I gotta really work the store. Which, we're not jumping this far ahead, but I have personal knowledge of how dead the store was during the summer.
Oh, yeah.
He could have closed that thing for the entire month of July and August, and no one would have cared. So him being like, I've got to go man the store was total balone.
Alone.
Totally ridiculous. So you inevitably, one of my favorite memories. So now we're living in the San Fernando Valley. It's very hot. It's the summer. What are we going to do with all these kids? Grammy's here for a visit. Let's all pile in. the station wagon. I don't know if we had a van yet.
Definitely station wagon.
But
I think
let's
I know where
all
this is
pile
going.
in, no seatbelt, nothing, and let's all head over the canyon to the beach.
Yeah.
I just remember Grammy in the front seat because you were, I don't know if we want to say present, past, you are a nerve-wracking driver. So now you factor in 5 to 6 children, like a kid just in a playpen. Ginny's like, she's roaming
we
loose.
would like crawl around. We just like, I'm going to sit on the floor. I'm going to sit. It was just chaos.
So, and there's some picnic basket.
And we are talking like station wagon of the vacation movie era. Like
Oh, yes.
Giant classic Caprice,
Beach
25
seats.
feet long, 8 feet
Yeah.
wide.
Yes.
Yeah. A boat. A small
Various
a
children,
land boat.
yeah, with children in that middle seat and children in that big open back thing.
And believe me, nothing ever changed. It almost did not depend on the car because we're not going to tell the famous story this time, but there are many driving through the canyon stories that were literally insane. But this is the memory with Grammy because we're all little, we all get in the car, we all go over, and she would be saying the rosary, clenching her eyes closed, and she'd look over that tell you.
One time we had to go back a different canyon. I don't
why?
know why.
It must have been,
And
there must have
Decker.
been something closed.
Absolutely.
You took
It was
Decker
Decker
through, but you had to take Decker.
And we got back to the house, and she said, I'm never going to the beach again. She said, I said 2 rosaries.
Oh
my God.
It was totally, and all those kids were like, and mom's like, "Wah!" I was just like, it was such, as a child, you're just like, you would literally get to the beach and like drop out of the car and like kiss the ground. Like we made it. It was so awful.
Oh, you loved getting away with all that crap. Are
That's
you
one of the
kidding?
biggest challenges. You're trying to get home safe and then also remember to call out for shower.
Oh,
shower. Yeah.
No. Well, listen, we can't get into
Much
your
later.
parents, hose them down on the front lawn. But other Grammy
Not
things-
even lawn, driveway.
Now,
driveway,
Grammy-
just
Yeah. Grammy was an early, not briber, but like she always had a tight 5.
yeah, she had
folded
cash.
and would slip it to you like if you had done something or she wanted you to do something. So
Or if she heard you were going out, she would give you money if you were going out. Here's a couple of bucks.
you're so good. We're like, Grammy, we're gonna go to the little local dairy, Altadena Dairy. Where do you guys go? Just like get out of the house, first of all. That was one thing. So she always had she had a lot of cash. Like it was always like, here, like disperse out.
That's a hilarious ploy from a grandparent. It was like, you guys are going to be back too quick. Here's 5 more
Go
bucks. That's
be
an
out for the
hour
day.
right now. I can buy an hour.
My
for 5 bucks.
grandmother didn't do that.
What?
In the first place.
Nana? Yeah, we know she didn't do that.
No, your grandmother or your mother?
No, my grandmother.
Your grandmother.
And she was absolutely in love with twins.
Oh,
I don't ever remember having a conversation with her
Oh,
in my
really?
entire
Okay.
life. But she had sisters, and they would come by to visit, and they'd always bring chiclets.
I think you told
Oh,
this
wait
story.
a minute.
Yeah.
What were their names?
Oh gosh, Maisie.
Oh, that's a cool,
Maisie?
cute name.
That's
I think
amazing.
so.
Who were the aunts that lived in Santa Barbara and it was like a cottage? Like-
those
They
were
Franks.
dads.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
That's the first time I had a really good carrot, like from a garden. She was like, "You're gonna have a really good eyesight, and you're gonna have curly hair if you eat carrots." And I was like, and I had the straightest, slickest hair that like I didn't wash sometimes. So it was like a grease slick. I was like a rabbit. I have great eyesight and curly hair.
Well, I don't understand because I don't really eat that many carrots. So where did
I
my
don't know.
curly
There's no
hair come
logic.
from?
What were
Okay,
their
so they were
names? I don't-
Maisie and
Mamie. It was not
Mamie.
Maisie. It was Mamie.
Mamie.
Aunt Mamie.
okay.
And then one of them moved out to California, so then we caught up with her when we got out here. But she had several sisters, but Mamie was the one I really liked.
Well,
She was my
like
favorite.
I said, I don't because we can wrap this up on another good Grammy story. John, look up the year E.T. came out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you know what? Somebody look at. No one knows.
It's 82.
Okay, so by this time we have Virginia, we have Ed, old enough that Grammy comes and it's like, okay, we're gonna go see this movie, and it like is a phenomenon. It's like huge. Steven Spielberg, like it is the movie. We're
Because
all
we didn't really go to the movies very much at
and
all.
we're not going to a
No.
drive-in. Full circle back,
No, no.
Mom.
Yeah.
Pun intended. We're gonna go to the UA
I was
movie
just gonna
theater,
say,
and we're gonna sit there and have popcorn in the nice, cool. Like this is a treat. And Grammy's gonna come with us, and it's like, and that's that type of thing where she's giving you a $5 to go to the concession. You're like, oh my gosh, am I gonna get goobers? Am I gonna get red vines? Like, what am I gonna get? This
I got to
is like-
split this 5 up and get a small candy, and a small popcorn.
well, I finagled all of the younger siblings. Like, all right, what you're going to get
Let's
is this.
pool our resources, and then
we're going to split the junior mints. I don't like junior mints. Shut up. You're going to get junior mints, and we are going to split it. And that's what's going to happen here with all the younger siblings. There's no way I would have tried that with older siblings.
No.
But
I would have had none of that.
And this was not even though James at this point was in high school, he still came. E.T. was such a big deal. And we're all now like so excited. We're all snacked up. And this is the other thing. This is now, you all youngins, reserved theater seating did not exist then.
Oh, yeah.
So
no.
to have seating for like a group of like 9, because knowing Mom, there's like 3 neighborhood kids that jumped in the car too. If there was room, they came. Pay your own way, fine. I think you put the most hyperactive child next to Grammy, Rosie, and myself, because I was sitting next to Grammy. And then I think there were kids in front of us too, because you couldn't all sit together. It was very hard to get a whole row together. Now, E.T., if you haven't seen it, the big Reese's Pieces thing is going through it. And E.T.'s a little alien with a long finger with a light bulb at the end of it. And all this stuff is, happening. It's very emotional and nerve-wracking and crying. And Elliot and all this stuff.
And I would say that E.T. is considered, because of his character, to be very sweet.
Oh, for
but
sure.
If you don't know what he's doing, he is not cute. He's kind of scary looking.
Grammy is looking so pained sitting next to us. I mean, and just so like people are laughing, they're crying, and she just keeps looking around like she
What's
is
happening?
on a foreign
She can't hear it.
way to blow the story. Yeah, so the problem was, back to her hearing aid, she had basically was so disturbed by how he looked, she turned it down. Because also all the ambient noise of laughing and people making noise was driving her crazy. So she turned down her hearing aid and then had no clue what was happening with this weird little wrinkled man. And it was driving her insane. So we get in the car. No one still knows, but she is in a pissed mood. And I will say there is one family member that has definitely inherited this trait. 0 poker face. So when she's in the car, you can tell she's like genuinely pissed. Like, she is not happy. All of us are like, oh my God, it was so crazy. And then he flew on the bicycles. It was the greatest day of our lives. We're so high on sugar, having the best time. And she's just like, so you go, Grammy, did you like the movie? No, it was the worst thing I've ever seen.
I kept my eyes closed the whole time.
And it wasn't until I think Dad got it out of her that she like turned down that hearing aid, like literally, like almost immediately. Because Steven Spielberg, God love him, John Williams, amazing soundtrack. The
score,
spaceship
yeah.
coming down. There was a lot going on. So she tried to regulate it and absolutely hated it. Like I said, when you go, did she like us or like coming to visit? There were really no indications that she did. Because, I mean, we won't even get
Although she did come, though. Because she
would
would just
come.
not come.
Believe me, I don't want to say back east was boring compared to us, but I mean, there had to not be there had to not be a calm moment the entire time she was here, because we had chores by this time, and man, if we were not doing our chores, what, John?
Well, I feel like there is a chore story. I don't know it. I wasn't around for
Well, Saturdays technically we would be given a chore. It was not child labor laws. I mean, it was like dust the living room, empty the dishwasher, maybe sweep the backyard, and this is per kid. You were not given multiple chores, but you had to maintain the chaos somehow. And in the meantime, usually you had to make your bed, have breakfast, teeth brushed, get dressed, get going. There wasn't like sleeping in until teenage years that you gave up trying to get us up. Otherwise, everybody was up and going at the normal times,
But even
during
then,
summer.
we basically had a household chore that you would do on the weekend, one indoor and one outdoor.
And you had to do it before you had full freedom.
Yeah.
So believe me, there was always like, can you switch with me this week? And next week I'll do this. There's always a lot, but you had to
gotta
do
go.
it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot of people were really trying to switch chores. Or was that just you?
Just one
me.
person.
And
Yeah.
then James would not care at all to do it in any timely fashion. He would be happy to read and maybe get to 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was just everybody sort of had their own independence with it. But for some reason, Grammy, the outdoor sweeping of the big concrete slab that we had,
the yard, yeah.
and you also then had to hose down the one pee spot that the dog always peed in. That was like that was the
spot.
cleaning of the. And if you did the little shimmy sham and put the leaves into one of the planters, oh boy, you get in trouble. But it was one of those things to say you put it off after breakfast. Now, Dad had once again already escaped, taken off, whatever. I just remember sitting in those plastic molded white chairs that you basically would drip sweat in. And it was William's week to do the outside patio. And he's sitting there having his cereal, and he looks at it, he goes, oh my gosh, Grammy's doing it. Yeah. I go stop her. Oh my gosh, you're going to get in trouble if mom sees that. So he goes out there, and it was like a physical battle to get the broom away from her. Because, her thing was like, you guys have waited too long. She's been up at that point for like 4 hours. Why aren't these chores done? Why aren't you doing it? I'll just do it myself. You guys aren't moving along quick enough. And he's like, you're going to get me in trouble. Give me back the broom. And at this point, he might have been taller than her. And it was like, oh, who's going to win this? And she is strong. God, she's gristly. God, I don't know how it's going to go down. Then he went and got another broom because we had like just the kitchen broom. And then we had like the outdoor broom was like the long
push
bar.
broom,
And they're like pushing against each other. And we were like all up against the glass like,
what's happening?
But
I missed the whole thing.
well, that's because eventually we were like, go, William! And then I think she was like, threw down the broom and was like, I hate all of you, and went up to her room. But that was one of her MOs, man. I mean,
Absolutely.
She wanted to be busy and do the chores, and so if there's something to be done, I'll just do it myself. Ooh, we're going to get in trouble.
She would also assess what needed to be done. If you were anywhere around her, she'd be like, Katherine,
this.
go do this, whatever. And you're like, it's not my week.
That's somebody
It's
else's.
somebody else's.
Oh, that did
And
not matter.
No. And then if there was any pause at all, she would start doing it. And if Dad was around, you would be in big
Now,
trouble.
I want to give the lady some credit. She had a team of one. Frank Killmond had a whole fucking cast of characters
Yeah.
to assign these things
Well,
to. So.
and we didn't have live-in help.
Happily.
And back when he was growing up, that was very standard. So, and I just did an homage to Grammy. We were having our big family Sunday dinner, and someone was passing out all the plates to stack on. And I said, oh, Katherine, because we kind of had assigned seating.
Yeah, we did.
But Grammy would come in and throw a wrench in there because I think she would sit down near Dad just to be able to hear him at the end of the day after her Whisk Pride and her little glass of wine at the end of the day.
God, that was, she had to have it
My
like 5
mother-
o'clock.
Whisk Pride was
No,
Grammy.
it was Grammy. Your mom would have Cheez-Its and scotch,
That's true.
and Grammy would have Ritz crackers with Whisk Pride.
Oh, that
whatever.
port wine
Port
spread.
wine-
It's
port
still
wine
good,
cheese,
people.
Which Whisk Pride's not available anymore, but you can get the Kona.
Trader Joe's has
Yeah.
a version of it too.
Yeah, there's a
Oh.
couple port wine cheeses still out there.
She was ahead of the pub wine cheese craze. So, and she'd have like one glass of little wine waiting for Dad to come home. And then she'd sit next to him for dinner to be able to hear about his day and just spend time with her son.
Well, that was partly because dinner in our house was quite delayed.
Oh, not at 5 or
7
6
o'clock
grabs.
if we were lucky.
Right.
Yeah. So she was like not gonna make it to 7
She was gonna
o'clock. She
faint.
needed some kind of snack.
She would sit on that corner bar stool watching you cook the chaos and have her little glass of wine and port wine cheese. And I mean, as a kid, maybe you get one out of her. And you're like, Rosie and I were always like, we're getting drunk off the port wine cheese. Because it had a wine in the name. So we're like, for sure. we're getting
Definitely.
drunk. Can we have another one that will be wasted? No. No. But so she would take all the plates, keep like, you think she's going to do the dishes. Oh, pass the plates down. And then she'd look at Katherine and put them all on top of your plate and challenge you. Like, you better get up and take these all to the sink. And you were like, ah!
She used to take them off the table before you were finished.
She was ready to move on with her day, people.
She was a busy lady. That was her MO.
Like I said, someone in our family has inherited a little bit of that trait where it's like, come on, let's move it along. Let's move the schedule along, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's a particular trait that someone has where it's like, all right, come on, next thing.
She did do something else that was nice. Didn't she bring something on all of these visits?
Oh,
That's what I was laughing
yeah.
at, Katherine.
Tasty cake.
You were asking, oh, did you catch something that was weird? I'm like, where in the hell did she stash those? How could she even pack that big of a box if her suitcase, it'd be like half of her suitcase? Maybe it was in like a knitting bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
she
like,
did
oh,
knit.
that's right. She had a knitting bag.
She crocheted.
That's where those tasty
Was that
cakes would have
no,
been.
not crocheting. It was knitting. She had a specific pattern that she did that had quite a bit of holes in it, but it was knitting needles for sure.
I still have mine.
I still have mine.
You know, they
she
were
made
not-
everybody Afghans.
Yep.
Yeah, and she generationally, our cousin Christine said what was so nice. She got into a mode of her life where she'd make them for their friends who were having babies.
Oh, like a smaller version.
Yeah, like really super sweet. I still have mine, and I was smart enough to be able to control the color selection. 'Cause
Yes.
otherwise, you just got what was on sale or was a discount, and you're like, wow, these primary colors are hideous.
Yeah, mine's not great. I think it's like red, orange, green. Okay.
Mine's like yellow and like mint. It's so good.
Yeah, and then like, because it was typically she would do 5 long panels.
Right.
And yours was yellow, green, and then like a combination one. Yours
Really,
was really
solid.
pretty.
I'm going to dig
Mine
that
was-
out.
Yeah.
Listen, the material that's made out of it's like, I don't think
It's
even...
never going to go bad.
No, it's never going to
No.
go bad. I think it's ever going to disintegrate in time. Like, 'cause
No.
it's like made out of some fiber.
Moths might get it.
Yeah, it's
Well, no, I think it's acrylic. I don't think
it's
it's.
500
I think even a
year-
moth would be like,
500 year
Was it
yarn.
Grammy that made the covers for the toilet paper?
I don't think so.
The
I don't think
hats?
she made them because I remember that.
that seems below her.
Yeah. Also, James wanted her to knit something else. Like he bought her a pattern
Yeah.
to knit sweaters.
Hell no.
And she was like, "This is too complicated," because she did this one thing. She was like, "No, I can't do that."
All right, we're going to say one more thing about her because listen, these are all memories of like fond love because it really
Yeah,
was. She was really quite the character in a lot of ways. She had one passion that she kind of kept secret, but then when you realize that she was a huge devotee of trashy romance novels.
yeah, I know.
With like Lilac Fabio on the cover. And she'd be like, hee hee hee, like, you're like, what? So I think like it was just sort of a shocking, she might have evolved later into like, Hallmark or Lifetime movies, but she always had some like literally what you'd buy at like, a gas station.
Like a Danielle Steele.
No, Danielle Steele was too
Elevated,
highfalutin.
yeah.
These are like trashy, like
Trashy romance
Trashy
novels.
romance
that was her
novels.
spot. Yeah.
well, like I said, like a Fabio, like embracing a woman, like
Oh, with the like décolletage all exposed.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the hair blowing back, that whole bit.
yeah. No, I mean that when I realized that at a certain age in my life, I'm like, whose book is this? She's like, give me that.
No wonder she didn't like E.T. That's not her story style at all.
Not at all. No,
Not
no,
at
no.
all.
Although
Well-
now I'm imagining Fabio and a weird alien on a cover of the.
No.
Yeah, I don't know, Ed, about that one, but there might be something there. All right, well, I don't know how we got so sidetracked by Grammy, but God bless her. She was definitely a huge chunk of our childhood.
She certainly was. And I look back at the pictures. I went to visit his family before we got engaged.
Yes.
Oh, and he wanted to have a party of all the people that he knew from the neighborhood that had always been there and people that he went to school with. And his mother was throwing a fit because you're not engaged. They'll think it's an engagement party. They'll bring gifts. It'll be awkward, blah, blah, blah. So he prevailed finally, and we had a lovely party. And everybody got to meet me, and people brought gifts, some of them, and, she was right about that. Then years went by, and my father died, and I was back east during Christmas time, because that's when he died. He died end of December. And James brought Michelle out here and wanted to have a party so that all of his friends could meet her, and so forth and so on. And Frank threw a fit.
Oh, because they weren't engaged?
And it was just like, I said, you are calling me to settle this while I'm at my father's funeral? And you don't remember we went through the same thing? Will you knock it off?
Well, this is too much to get into now, but our dad was not always the greatest at having parties.
Yeah.
He was
good once it started, but the build up, the anticipation, the planning, no. Absolutely not. So like I said, that's too much to get into right now. So
Yeah.
Well, let's stop right here.
Yeah.
So what we haven't gotten to, and we'll have to remember for next time, is we're going to have when Ed was born. So because there's kind of a biggish gap between Virginia
How much?
and Ed.
Like 4 years.
Considering
That was
all,
a big gap.
Yeah, considering all the first of us were so close together.
Yeah.
So
I think most people might have thought, and they're finally done.
no.
Yeah, after Ed, certainly we thought so.
Oh, after Ed? And then there was John.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right,
But
so we'll save that for
is
next
a great
time.
story, so we'll save
that for next time.
For next time.
Okay, well, then that's it for this episode. Thank you all for listening and watching and joining us here on Family Dynamics. And thank you for coming in, Mom. We love hearing your history. And we
More
haven't-
like Grammy's history.
I know,
today.
but you know what? I want to hear all of it and get it.
Yes.
Get all those stories before we forget them.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm the one to forget things, but still. All right, so that's it, and we're just going to say a little goodbye. So on the end, you're going to join in.
Okay.
All right, ready? So you can follow us on our social at Family Dynamics with a K, and also you can watch our episodes on the Knack Entertainment YouTube channel. So that's it for this episode of Family Dynamics.